yeah, Sunday night, News Desk. Hope you've had a great day. Things are looking up. It's tough week all week last week. It's a new week. Good evening, Michael. Good evening to all that are coming on the screen from various places. David AM, Southern Fried Corporate Nation, as we broadcast from the banks of the Southern Fried River here in North Georgia, as it gently flows through the state, down south, Roberts Way, my co-host, throughout the week, and empties somewhere in Florida, the great state of Florida. We thank you all. Hello, Miss Jen. And good evening to you as well. Well, been a busy weekend, a lot going on. The news continues. Oh, why, yes, Tarman, we're going to talk about that. The title of this news desk, it is the SFP News Desk, but a working title is The Bad News Continues for Joe Biden. Now, controversy, conspiracy theory would say this news released on purpose because the news has been horrible this weekend. And yes, some people need to go to jail. Brother Michael, yes. Well, it's been a great week in many ways for the administration. As we've discussed, a very successful foreign trip, red carpet rolled out, in some cases, even other colors. Escorts by fighter jets, horses, camels. They rolled it all out for him. And yes, he came back with the cupboards full. He got a lot of jobs taken care of, meaning American jobs. For all you that work for Boeing, you're going to be busy. There's going to be a lot of work for you. Brought home a lot of promises, a lot of money, and yes, a plane to be delivered. Look for a MAGA Minute this week to talk about that. I mean, after all, it's not the first time we've been given a gift, right? Should we give back the Statue of Liberty? Well, anyway, there was some French politician over there, I remember, wanted to come get it. Good luck with that, bud. You can't have it. The president is riding high. He does have some danger points. Well, he's got James Comey, who's... I'm not laughing at what he did. The thought of, I don't know if you've seen all the memes that people have put together for Mr. Comey with seashells. Some of them cannot be repeated. But let me tell you, he's getting lit up. He is getting lit up on the socials. He deserves to go to jail too. Dan Bongino and others have ripped him in shreds for the idea that he didn't know what that meant. Nobody's buying your story, Bob. You have a death wish for the president, and you want, if not yourself, you're trying to encourage others to do it so you can celebrate it. Well, you're in trouble. I don't know if anything will come of it, but I think he deserves a really harsh sentence for that right there. Whether we like him or not, he's been a person of authority. He is known. It's not the kind of person that can just throw a comment out there, nobody ever sees it. He's well known across the world. His socials are watched. Oh, they just cherished him that. Well, the president has had at least 2 attempts made on his life that we know of. No telling how many they've stopped before they ever got off the ground. And here we have an American citizen who has been a member of our government. Bad as he still was there. And is basically instigating someone to do it. Can't have that in America. Just cannot have that. The war in Russia, Ukraine is not good. It's worse this weekend. President is wanting to have a phone call with Putin tomorrow on Monday. They're going to have a lot to talk about. They had a lot to talk about already. How about 200 plus drones fired into the nation? A van that was hit already, killing many civilians, and the threat of other missiles to be launched into the country. Either he's trying to go out in a blaze of glory or he's wanting to continue the war, or both. The president's going to have the heart to heart, as they say, with Vladimir Putin, who I'm sure will not listen. This is the true test of a leader. Those that rise in greatness in history didn't get there because it was easy. It's not something you can ascribe to someone. It's something that has to happen. For all the things that Donald Trump, I believe, should be praised for, there maybe is not that defining moment yet. Although the attempt on his life will forever be written in the annals of history and looked back on. Certainly. Things that he has done, the collective could be, the collective. But to rise to the point of greatness that a leader must have to really rise, be remembered 1,000 years from now, although I'm not saying that President Trump would ever be forgotten. I'm just saying to rise to that figure. I believe this is his hill. Now, there's a lot of hills that we might tackle. There's a lot of hills that we say that we're willing to lay it all down for. Leaders will lead even if it destroys them. They've done it throughout American history. There were those who gave up all of their wealth, everything they had, for the causes that they believed in, including their lives. Now, nobody's asking the president to do that. But I would say that this cause right here, although left in his lap, is certainly one that could go down in history, possibly the Middle East. But as bloody as this is, if he can find a way to navigate through this and ease this back off, facing down a superpower who has been a known enemy of the United States of America, after the mess that he was left, I believe it would be remembered in history. Because it's not easy. It's not. This has been ongoing. There has been a lot of diplomacy extended here. It's going to have to rise to another level. When President Ronald Reagan wanted to back off the Russians, now some said he was suffering from the effects of dementia and Alzheimer's at this point. Maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. Only God knows. Or maybe his doctors. And maybe that is another example of where the American public was kept in the dark. I don't know. But I do know this. The moxie of Ronald Reagan to walk in and sit down with Boris Yeltsin and tell him, we have Star Wars. We will blast your missiles out of the sky. And to make him sit back down and make the treaty will forever be remembered. Ronald Reagan rose to greatness. Some still don't like him. It's just the way it goes. But we know the things that he did, the way he handled politics in America and diplomacy around the world. The second term was very hard for Ronald Reagan, but he had his great moments, and great accomplishments, and I believe he was a great president. No president is without flaws because humans are not without flaws. Everybody has something. Some have many. Some are just no good. Donald Trump can navigate this point and bring peace where it is utter just bloodshed right now. He would rise to a level because I believe he's going to have to get his hands a little dirty on this one. It's going to be more than a phone call, folks. It's going to be maybe a little more involved than we want to be. But I believe he can get there. But it's going to take some real, and by the way, pray for it. This is not the place of sissies. This is not where weak-kneed people walk into. This is not an easy thing. The world is watching. And dare I say, God is watching. What happens here will affect millions of people. It has already affected millions of people. Wars are ugly. They spill out and they injure in ways that we couldn't even imagine when they started. Peacemakers, remember they called him a warmonger. Peacemakers will make the deal. And I believe he can do that. Let's pray for him. All right. Former President Joe Biden has not had a good weekend, as we know. First of all, the Hur report was released. We've already known a lot of what was in the Hur report, but now transcripts, audio files have been released on Saturday. It's very damaging to the administration. I don't think any conservative was shocked, and probably not any Democrat. They knew what was going on. They were just willing to ignore it so that they could stay in power. As much as we blistered them over the weekend for what they knew and the criminality of what they were doing with this man and the effects of the auto pen, and by the way, the naming of a Supreme Court justice, all those things must be in question now because of where he was at and his mental capabilities. We may touch back on that in a minute, but we rather covered that pretty exhaustively yesterday. But now we hear this afternoon the news that the former president, has a very aggressive prostate cancer. Now we know the numbers for prostate cancer are not good in some cases, especially aggressive kind, metastasize. They said that 1 in 8 men will suffer this. It is said if you live long enough, most men will have it. Some men live fairly normal lives with it. Some people, they do not survive it. It's interesting the timing of this. We talked yesterday about the release of information on Fridays. Supreme Court, or even over the weekend. Supreme Court chiming in this weekend. The Hur report, other things that were being released. And then on a Sunday afternoon, the report that the former president has very aggressive prostate cancer. This news is not good. It just piles on to what we've already known. Now, here's the problem. Any of us, God forbid, could go to the doctor and have a terminal announcement after testing happen to any of us at any time. We know this. But they act as though they're surprised at this. This would not just have cropped up on a sitting president, even one that's been out of office over 100 days. These men, and maybe the future women, are checked extensively. They have their own doctors. How long have they known of what he had? And again, I said yesterday, what more is there we do not know? Little did I know that in one day, less than a day, would be announced this aggressive form of prostate cancer for former President Joe Biden. His administration, the shadow government, this has got to be at the very tip of the spear for the Trump administration to investigate. I'm sure there are things going on behind the scenes we know not. I'm not expecting them to call up the Southern Fried and say, hey, Dave, we need to let you know what's going on. So that's the hope, is that there is investigations going on. We hear this weekend that there are indictments coming soon for some of the J6 matters, and it's quite extensive. We'll talk about that this week. That is the hot rumor, that there are indictments that are coming from Pam Bondi and Kash Patel, including some in the government. This is going to cover up the news, so we'll be talking about it. Don't know when that will happen, but I hear it's coming and coming soon. That's the scuttle. But very high on that list must be the investigation of those involved in what was going on for the last 4 years. I would pull the doctors in. I would want to know. I want to have a committee. I'm not saying you have to release for the whole United States. It is medical. But there needs to be an investigation. Authorities need to look into who knew what and when. We've said this about his mental capabilities, but if he was already suffering from cancer, which he undoubtedly was, you just can't tell me and convince me this man was just surprised by this announcement. It does not compute. It does not make sense. It doesn't pass the smell test. This administration is the dirtiest in the history of the United States, I believe, without a doubt. There is absolutely nothing, it seems, that they put off, the list of trying to do to stay in power. The whole administration, even before he became president, as vice president, has been dirty. The big guy, the 10%, Son Hunter. There's so many things that we could list. I mean, the list is long. And I do believe that the president is going to lead his Justice Department to investigate a lot of these things. After all, the same president just this weekend released one of those videos under his name about Hillary Clinton. The stories that we knew, we were just talking about the other night. Vince Foster and others, the mysterious deaths. I think he's pretty well showing his hand. It's going to be an amazing year, folks. There's going to be a lot that's going to go on. That's why the attacks are so intense. That's why the manipulation. That's why the lies. That's why the hiding of things. That's why the attacks on this man's life. Because there is some dirt that's going to be uncovered that's going to rock Washington, I believe. And yes, Greg Gutfeld make Watergate look like a parking ticket. That is the hope anyway. The news just continues to get bad. Now, to what level this goes forward, don't know. But along with this news, there is also news today. As far as this investigation, House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer, Republican, Kentucky, said Friday they believe that they have identified the auto pen user. They think they know the staffer who did it. There's some retribution fixing to come. The deeper question is how much can be rolled back. Now there'll be a legal test here, undoubtedly. But we must pursue that as a nation. How far back could anything that this man did be trusted? And those things that we know that he was not doing must be rolled back. Must be. How can we have any trust in our government if we don't do something about this? Oh my goodness. I see you in the chats. Hello, Barry. Thank you for being here, even though late. You're never late, my friend. You're right on time. We appreciate you. Yes, it does, Tower Man, show that their sins will be finding them out. But he has to do something because he has to instruct his Justice Department to investigate this and prosecute to the full extent of the law. And some have already believed that the president has been weak-kneed a little bit on some of the matters. That's out there. There are a lot of people commenting about it. Thought that he was maybe hedging on some stuff here. Maybe he will. We will see. But yes, even though there's the ultimate judge, yes, they will stand before. We still have laws. These people have broken the law. On that note, I do say, and sincerely say, pray for Joe Biden. This is not only the right, compassionate, and Christian thing to do, it's biblical. We always say, what would Jesus do? Well, I think we know. We'll let the ultimate judge, yes, take care of him on the eternal matter and for anything he's done. But we should pray for him and his family. It's just, as far as politically, what did they know and how long did they know it, and what in the world has been factual or accurate? What did this man know? And nobody knows the time frame except God Almighty. Someone has. But as aggressive as if they're announcing aggressive, which, by the way, they're always very choosy about their terms that they use. The fact that they said it was aggressive and that it has attached to the bones and all, it just tells you how bad it is that they're even willing to announce that right now. Now, some say that's shielding and blocking other things that's going on and moving people to a place of compassion. We can have compassion and still have the law involved. Absolutely. But they're making this sound like, there's a death watch going on for the next few months. This is incredible. I've said that several times over this weekend, just how far this administration, not the Trump administration, the Biden administration, was willing to go, the shadow government was willing to go to save their power base. Boy, there needs to be some involvement in investigations and finding out some things. It's going to rock this country. There's no doubt. Yes, Tarman, he was a puppet. And I think that if you can put enough pressure on, there'll be some people that will cave. And they're gonna talk. Now, who all knows that inner circle is probably very tight. I'm not going to name names. Lawyers are waiting. But I will say it's pretty obvious. A lot of the names have been mentioned. But that inner circle, those that have been very out front, very visual, some of those have been very behind the scenes, but also very well known over the last 12 years or so. We've seen them. We know who they are. Undoubtedly, probably in that inner circle. It's behind the curtain of the power base. Certainly your spouse should know what's going on with your health, I would think. Did Jill know the extent of her husband's illnesses? And yet did nothing? We've already said this many times. Now it seems it's even worse than we thought. At what point would most people, compassionate people, step forward and say, you're not putting him through another day of this? We're out. But no, she didn't do that. She let the charade go on. In fact, probably, most likely helped. And didn't want to step down when they forced him to. There's been a lot of behind-the-scenes hatred along with this. What kind of a sick person does their spouse like that? Well, I believe that too, sir, that Jill is just as guilty. And yes, I do believe there's a lot of them that are feverishly been writing their books, trying to cash in on this and trying to get out ahead of the story a little bit of some of the things that they witness. There's undoubtedly, now I know that there's some of them that probably signed documents and things to swear to secrecy, but still these things come out. There's a group that you can't fool much, and that is the White House staff. Now, a lot of the staffers, the inner mechanisms of the White House, they don't change much. They're there for decades. Now, they might not be in all the secret meetings and rooms and things, but they see what's going on. They know a heck of a lot more than what people think they know. I've had friends connected to White House staff before, and they will give you the skinny on what these people are like when the cameras are off and behind the doors. Some of them are very, very nice and have been. They speak highly of them, even beyond politics. Some of them were scum. They treated them with tremendous disrespect, talked down to them, were abusive. The White House staff knows this. There's undoubtedly those who know some of the things that's been going on, or at least had some pretty strong hints about it, because it's not their first rodeo. They've been around the White House and around administrations for decades, many of them. I'm interested to know what they know. Maybe some are ready for retirement. They're probably worried about permanent retirements. This is some high-level stuff. There's a lot of people that could be in trouble. There's a lot of people that could go down. And when some go down, they'll take others with them. And people don't go quietly into the night. They will fight with everything they have. This story is as ugly as anything in the history of the United States, as far as involving a president and the actions of an administration. Who would have thunk it? With the technology and everything we have today, I mean, it would be very easy to pull off. I mean, remember the days of Roosevelt and how they hid his sickness, the full extent, from the American public. They put him in positions where he was, there wasn't the social media of the day. A lot of his things were audio. The pictures were all staged. It wasn't until very late in his fourth term that people really had a big sense of just how ill the president was. And obviously, at that point, he was truly probably too ill to serve himself. And here we were in the midst of all the war that was going on, and the meeting at Malta and other things that happened around that. And yes, off with his affair in Georgia. So it has happened before on somewhat of a scale, but nothing like this. Nothing where a man was totally incapacitated to the point that he didn't know his way off a stage, spoke to people that weren't there, tried to shake hands with them, misspoke, couldn't do anything without his prepared notes, no questions. Anger, showed anger, which is very common for that type of illness. There were times that they bull rushed the media out of the room. I mean, the list is very long. We can see now, with what we know now. I mean, we were pretty much all over it, but it was worse than we thought. And remember, early on in the presidency, we really thought that he wouldn't serve very long. Remember that. I said it myself. It felt as though they would have him step aside at some point. They were just wanting to get the position seated, and then there were many that thought that they would then move Kamala into that, and she would be the first female president. Well, they didn't do that. Pretty amazing. They did not do that. It shows you what they thought of her. The they being the power base, the ones behind the curtain. Remember, there was a lot of talk about that he wouldn't last the full term. He was sick. Remember, he didn't campaign. He hid in the basement, rolling around, and president's trying to get him out for debates. And this is, going back to 2020. He wasn't out there. He wasn't doing the stump speeches and everything. And then throughout most of his term, he was on vacation. He was absent. Meetings were canceled. Staff is now saying this, that it was very hard, unnamed sources, staff, unnamed, that there were days that they had business that needed to be taken care of. Joe was not available. Or they thought they would have him for 2 or 3 hours. They had him for, 45 minutes. It was really hard to get things done. The stress level was very high. It always is in administration anyway. You can imagine all that's going on around the White House, the communications with other leaders, the political football that goes back and forth, all the activities that they're required to attend, travel, press conferences, speeches. The list goes on and on. It's a very demanding job. Most age when they come out of it. Little we know that Joe was already near the end. It's a miracle as we look back that Joe was actually able to make it to the end. And yet they still rolled him out. They still rolled him out for the debate. Even the Democrats, they look back now, they're so angry. I mean, they saw what everybody else saw. There were some Democrats, I think, that drank the Kool-Aid. They were totally fooled. They believed their people too, that he was okay. They saw the look on his face. They saw how he held his mouth. They saw how he could not handle President Trump, and he was just outmatched. But he was sick. And now we see just how sick. This is not that long ago, folks. This man was sick, and they rolled him out there. Tarman says, well, Obama and crew wanted him to win, and they would take over whenever the cancer goes bad. I believe he had cancer maybe 3 to 4 years. Very possible. It's very possible. By the way, the company that owns my company just announced a change in leadership. Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett, who's been battling this for a few years himself. And he is now fixing to exit it. He's stepping down. He's been around a long time. His age is certainly up there. But he's going ahead and making that. They already had plans in place, but he's going ahead and stepping down. Everybody has to at some point. But he's certainly not in the shape that Joe Biden is in. It is very sad. Tarman says we'll see some of the other 80-plus-year-old people die this year. Morbid thought, but true. That one lady died a short time ago. Well, death always wins, right? It doesn't win eternally through Christ Jesus, but it does win in this life. This is absolutely heartbreaking for our nation, by the way. I don't enjoy. Honestly, this story is sickening to me. I know there are some out there, and I don't criticize and I don't judge. And if someone wants to cover the story, and I know how, I get it, how evil they've been and everything else. But that is Christ in me. I'm nobody special. I'm not better than anybody. Certainly not. I'm a sinner saved by grace. And I don't have any use for the Biden administration whatsoever. But you know what? I do have compassion. And my heart goes out. I cannot believe it is disgusting to me. My wife right now, as you know, many of you, who was in fell and has been injured. And I was just thinking today, as she's gotten some better, I visited her in the rehab. And still that, she still has the evidences of the fall. Her face continues to change all sorts of colors. And it is very heartbreaking to me. It is so hard. And I have protected her. I will not let anybody take a picture of her and post that on the socials. Nobody wants to see that. And if they did, the heck with them. That is not for public consumption. We don't do that. And I protect her that way. She wouldn't want it anyways. Doesn't even like her picture being taken, except for grandkids and the dog. I would not let her be put in that light. I would lay down my life for this lady. And I can't, it is beyond my comprehension of how evil you must be to roll your spouse out with the conditions that Joe Biden's been in for some time. And it is now escalating to the point that they're even having to make announcements like this. This is the most sickening thing. And I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. There are some that criticized Nancy Reagan, and I understand. There's still that question. Did President Ronald Reagan, in that second term, and it was a rough second term, and there were times that he seemed as though he was not as sharp as he was before. And how much did they know? I remember the rumblings. You remember they talk about it. It's continued to be talked about. Now, she took great care of her husband. I'm not here to bash him. I'm just saying there was talk about that. And I get it that someone wants to serve as long as they can. It's like an aging ball player. They want to go out on their own. They don't like somebody coming in and saying you're done. It's a very hard thing. Our ego, our pride, our whatever. You want to close things out. But closing out is one thing. Renewing and trying to start into a new administration of that condition, to me, is criminal. It's certainly criminal in a spiritual way, that you would do your spouse that way. I never had any respect for Joe Biden. I certainly don't have any today. Now, she doesn't answer to me. As a taxpayer, she did, not now. But she does answer to the great judge of us all on how she handled her husband. Husbands and wives should always defend each other. Husband and wife support each other. My wife has always been my sounding board. There are things that she would say to me and I to her to put us in the best light. Something we need to correct, something we need to fix. Standing in front of crowds for these last many, many years, there were times my wife said, you did this or you did that. Those were said in private. Those were said in love. Those were things that she said to help me get him to improve. The things she picked up on. She watched how people reacted. She gave me those things. Sometimes I didn't notice all of that, or things that she just thought I should know. She also encouraged me in times that I was down. I felt like I didn't do very well. Those were times she lifted me up. This is what spouses do, or they should do. It's so unfortunate to see someone done like this. Probably every family has been touched by someone. I mean, because we all have sickness and age that has happened and diseases that happen in our family. Every one of us has probably been a caretaker for someone or to help those who have. And I just cannot imagine somebody doing someone like that. I know there's evil in the world. It's just shocking to me. My head can't even get around it. How you could do that person like that. We watch it in movies. We see it. We like, okay, it happens. And I've seen it locally. I've seen caretakers go to jail for how they ripped off. I get that. But it's still depressing to me and it's still shocking to me. Because I try to find the good in everybody. At the very core, even on people I totally disagreed with of their politics, I also saw that they were good to their spouse or their kids or their grandkids. Just because we are opposed and we disagree on politics doesn't mean that they don't have families they love, take care of, encourage. They laugh together and cry together and all those things. I cannot understand how a spouse would allow this to happen. Oh, I get those that are behind the curtain that are just greedy and they don't care. But your loved one, your spouse, how do you allow that to happen, Joe Biden? How do you allow them to do that? And seemingly be front and center, not only supporting it, but actively involved with it. You have a lot to answer for. And I think the news is just going to get worse and worse and worse. Tarman goes on to say, the ones I'm speaking about are greedy for money and power. Yes, they are. Perhaps that is why Comey made his comment. I don't know. Comey's another one that needs to answer for his mouth. Tarman, I know you lost your wife, and I hope none of that's hard to hear. I know you still grieve with that, but he said, I never took a picture of my wife while she was dying. And I understand that. And thank you for the like on Podbean. And God bless all of you on Instagram, Rumble, Locals, wherever you're coming from. There's quite a few different places, Facebook and all. We appreciate you, X. Thank you for all the X support. There's a lot of you out there. We appreciate it. But anyway, it's sickening to me that this lady has done this to him. And again, I'm not a supporter of Joe Biden in any way whatsoever. But on a human level, my heart goes out. I won't mock on the person or who's laying in the hospital bed in their last moments. I've went to people that I didn't start it or even continue it, but there were people that I had pretty significant differences with, who we did not get along, that yet called me at their very end and called me in and basically apologized and said they were just full of hate at the time and they released all that and they took it out on me. And we made that record. And sometimes that doesn't happen. But in my case, I've had that happen when they've called me in. There's never been a lot of people, thank goodness. But there's been some, and they called me in. And they said, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. And within days, in this particular case, was pancreatic cancer. And within days, we're gone. It was a very profound moment and moments. I've went to the bedside of many who were there. Now, he's not at that point yet, but this news is very bad. And it doesn't seem like there would be a lot of time. Now, only God knows. And we're certainly not predicting. I would never do that. But I would say that if this administration, as bad as they have been, are releasing this information, spokespeople are releasing this information and using those terms themselves, we're not escalating. They escalated. It has to speak to us that it is really, really bad. And This is going to dominate the news cycles, what's going on. And there's going to be a lot of things happen in the days going forward. We certainly believe that wholeheartedly. But do pray for him. Pray for those in his family. I mean, he has grandkids too. And even one, yes, he wouldn't recognize. That's still that child's grandparents. Whether we like it, or we like him or not, these kids and grandkids and all that are involved, and other extended family. And of course, that would be very sad for anybody to hear. So I don't and will not say anything negative that way. That's not me. I'm not going to do that. I'll leave that for others if they choose to. This is America, and you have freedom of voice. I won't do it. But I will say that the demons were abounding because of what they've done to this country. And there's a lot to clean up. We know it. And I don't know that we can get it cleaned up in 4 years during this term. And we better pray tell. And we better stay active and see another conservative elected after his term, whether that's JD or whoever it is. Because it's going to take some time to clean this nation up. The filth that's been going on behind the scenes, the dictatorships, the mafia tactics, and you can just say all the adjectives you would ever want to use that have been going on, and we're probably selling it far short of what's been going on in our nation, is off the scale. And yes, I agree with Mr. Gutfeld. It does make Watergate look like a parking ticket. It is unbelievable. The destruction of the rule of law and things that they accomplished in 4 years. And yes, I say accomplished because they did. They were proud of those facts. They were happy about it. They made it where people couldn't even talk about it. People were removed from social platforms who've even mentioned it. There's some tonight. I may get struck just for some of the things that I've said on some of the streams. I don't care. And I don't say it as hard as some. That's where we're at. They have tried to stop voices from talking about this. They have mocked conservatives. They've mocked Republicans. They have said that we were making things up, that we were lying. We've all known just how sick this man was. We all knew it. You had to be totally incapacitated yourself to not see what was going on with this man. It's just that it was worse than we thought. We didn't know the full story. It's now starting to come out. It is truly amazing. It's like a movie that's playing out before us. It truly is. It's like one of those Tom Clancy books or something. It is absolutely. I can just see Harrison Ford stepping forward. Trying to print the reciprocity off. It's just that what's been going on in our government, and for some time. I'm not saying it just came on the scene, by no means, but it is certainly the ugliest at the latest. And we do need to pray for the president. We're dealing with people who are evil. You don't have a conscience. When you have, we say the words, we don't have a soul. Every human has a soul, but they ignore. They have no spark of goodness with them whatsoever. They're absolutely evil. And all you got to do is watch how some people treat those that are sick to know just how evil they are. These people are evil. They're demonic. There are demons at work here. And our nation has suffered because of it. There are people in jail right now because of the demon actions of these people. And boy, we need our government right now to go to work. The Justice Department, FBI, but we need them on point. And like I said, this needs to be at the tip of the spear. The J6ers, everything that's went on, we need some action to start moving very quickly. Yes, we've got things across the world we need to look at. That's what presidents do, but we need to make sure that this is happening and happening quickly, because these people need to be dealt with. Michael says they started it a long time ago, but Trump hurt the plan the first time. He sure did. I still have a feeling that there's going to be a lot of changes in the next 24 months. I'm with you, brother. I feel it in my gut too. I have said it's a bumpy road ahead. Even the president said the road ahead is filled with bumps. He wasn't just talking about tariffs. The president is always thinking broadly across a lot of different things. I would say there's things that the president knows right now that they're navigating to figure out how to handle as these different things drop. And there's going to be more and more of these things drop in the days and weeks and months ahead. Just hang on, folks. Better have the seatbelt strapped really tight. We're going to be jumping some creeks. And there's going to be a lot going on for this country. It's, I like that old song, The Anchor Holds. There's a lot of things that America's suffering under right now. Yeah, there's some things that are hurt us really bad as the United States. It's sickening, and good, patriotic, America first loving America. They know this, they see this, they understand this. And others are going, well, ain't nothing, it's always been the same. No, it's worse now. People got their head in the sand. They say, oh, it's always been like that. There ain't nothing different today than there has been. Yes, there is. This is on a scale that we've never seen before. And we better thank the good Lord above that the President Trump did win. Because, my goodness, what were they planning with Joe, who was, if he had won, he was not going to make it probably the 4 years. Now we know that for sure. Folks, that's why it wasn't just that debate. There's a lot of things of why they come after him. A lot more things than that debate. It did shock the Democrats, yes. But the people in the power behind the scenes, the people who hold real power in this nation, they knew. They've been the Trojan horse in this country for a long time. They've been working this plan very diligently. They've been destroying our country systematically through courts, judges they've appointed, laws they've changed, regulations. The list goes on and on and on. They have worked very hard to destroy family, church, school, man and woman, marriage. The list is long. A systematic destruction of the United States of America. Invasion of our country, the drugs, the crime, the cities, the dilapidation, being pushed around the world, the debt, just goes on and on. And now we see just how evil they are, how they'll do a human being. With all that, they don't care. That's just another one that they just bring somebody up to be the puppet, right? Just roll out the next one. They're getting ready right now. They've already got plans to get that next one in there, right? In a little under 4 years, they're looking to get the next puppet out there. Who can they pick? Who can they roll out there that they can pull the strings on and continue the dirty actions? Well, they're still working on them. They've not stopped. They just lost their ability to do it as openly as they did. They're still very active and at work to try to destroy this country. And this has ramifications for the world. It's not just an America thing. This has ramifications for the world. And all the things that have been going on around the world. After all, let's ask how many Ukrainians are dead now and Russians? And how much did that administration have of the monkeying around over there? The work with NATO, the vocal threats, using Zelensky as their little puppet over there. Again, folks, it goes on and on and on. The control factor around the world, the disruption in countries, creating war zones where there were no war zones. These people have done that. They call the conservatives the warmongers. These people have been on point for a while, inflicting harm across this earth. It's absolutely, as I said, I'll say it again, criminal. That's our man. It's not who will be a puppet, it's what we know and what they are up to. Yeah, but they still use the puppet. Who's lining up? Who's going to be the next one? Right? God help. And I don't care, again, I don't care what side of the aisle someone's from to this point right here. Most human beings, if not all, I mean, certainly there's some nuts out there. Most human beings, nobody wants a war zone. Who in their right mind would want a war zone? Who wants their country to have bombs falling, artillery shells, tanks rolling through their city, rolling over their homes, taking their children to another country, landmines everywhere, no food, no water, religion being destroyed, the churches that's been going on. The list is long. Who would want that? Nobody in their right mind. The soldiers, patriotism runs pretty thin after a while. Your buddies have been blown to bits. That's why you quit making friends, because you don't know how long you got. You certainly don't know how long they got, so you don't want to get ripped up again and again as people die. Nobody wants that. People want to have food, a good place to stay. No matter the size. Home is where you make it. A place to live, a place that's called home, that special word called home, where you go and everything's going to be okay. And the government just gets out of your way and lets you do what you need to do to live your lives. That's the way it should be. But no. We've got a government that's been monkeying with the lives of not only Americans, but people across this earth. They've put nations on the edge. And some have went over the edge. And they must answer for that. They have caused war to come to people who did not have war, who were just living their lives. And the death and destruction is staggering. And it gets worse every single day because the actions of these people who are evil and greedy and corrupt and every other bad adjective you could put with them. That's what we're dealing with, folks. It's not just an American thing. Certainly we're here. We think about it from an American perspective. But if you're listening not from Ukraine or Russia, or our friend that chimed in last Saturday from Russia, he's sick of this stuff. He wants out of this war. He had some very strong language about what's going on. And he's saying that right from inside Russia. God bless you, my friend. I'm sure could be dangerous for you. We thank you for your passion. It's not in here tonight, but he chimes in from time to time. We pulled him up in the phone call, and he said in his the best English he could use, he let us know how he felt about it. These people are sick of it. They're ready for a new day. Every day is the same day for them. Nothing changes. Now, some people in the country are not living in the war zone, sure, but it still affects their lives, and it affects our lives here. It affects our lives all across the world. Nobody wants supply disruption. Nobody wants to go to the store and you can't get medicines. Nobody wants to go to the store and you can't get bread or diapers for the kiddos or whatever it is. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants to go to the store. I mean, I don't usually shop, folks. My wife's in the rehab. I go to my granddaughter says, Papa, we got to go shop. I know some things have gotten better, but I walk around and my memory bank is a little more distant on pricing. And I'm just looking at those prices list going, my goodness. I don't know how many times I said that. We're making decisions on, well, we'll just get this size or we'll get this brand over here. Well, we don't need that. Let's wait. Trying to make the best financial decisions that we can because we see just how the escalation of prices, some things we decided not to give. She's very good to shop with in this way. We've done well with her. She sees the same thing, and she's using her head at 12 years old, almost 13, to make decisions. I concur with her decisions in most cases. She was right. It's hard to go shop. It's depressing. It could get a lot worse, folks. Thank goodness we have a president that's bringing jobs and money to our nation and trying to level this playing field. We had an administration that was just ready to see this country go into a full, just a collapse. They were celebrating it. They were having a party, excited about it. Lord have mercy. That's our show for tonight. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care. Rob will be back with me.